Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I'm coming to you from a very windy Nebraska. I come from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Thursday, April 11th, 2024. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I'm hosting a year-long make-along on Instagram called the Make 9 2024 Mal, and that's for you to join in the Make 9 challenge, where you can choose 9 projects that you would like to work on this year, post a grid of those projects to Instagram, and then anytime that you post a picture of one of your works in progress or one of your finished objects, you can include the hashtag Make 9 2024 Mal, and that will include you in the drawing to win a prize, which I draw periodically throughout the year. I have a few more prizes to give away today. The first one I shared with you a couple of episodes ago, but it was never claimed, and so I'm going to be re-gifting that. All of the yarn that I am giving away was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Kim. And then the goodies that are included with this prize were gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Mickey. So the yarn is a beautiful hank of yarn from Cloud Born. It is a merino superwash sock twist hand paints base in the Spring Flowers colorway. And it is 80% superwash merino wool, 20% polyamide. And the extra goodies are this cute little case that says, if you can dream it, you can make it. It's a zippered pouch. And it would be perfect for holding little notions or crochet hooks or DPNs or even circular needles. I suppose you could probably fit them in there. Then there is a patch by Bella Coco, which says crochet is cool. It's a sew-on patch. And then there's 2 little samples. One is a wool soap sample, and one is a lotion sample. So all of these goodies will be given, or the winner of these goodies is Melanie of the Rusted Thread on Instagram. Congratulations to you. For all of the winners of the prizes I'm going to be announcing today, please just get in contact with me through direct message on Instagram. Let me know your first and last name and your mailing address, and I'll be happy to get these off in the mail to you as soon as possible. Congratulations to you, Melanie. The second prize is a gorgeous hank of yarn by Lorna's Laces. This is colorway. The colorway is called Christmas at Downton. It is on a Soulmate base, which is 55% superwash merino wool, 15% nylon, and 30% Outlast viscose. So beautiful. And also, along with this prize, I was gifted a copy of the Serene Socks beautiful pattern. I will insert a picture of it here. A new design by 3 by the Seas, and they gifted a copy of this pattern to you, and they also gifted a copy of the pattern to me. So thank you so much, ladies, for that beautiful pattern. I just love it so much. I've seen a couple of people already knitting on those socks, and I'm excited to start that pattern soon-ish, but I don't know when. I have way too many whips on the go as it is, so I really love that sock pattern, though. It's so gorgeous. So thanks again, ladies, for donating that copy of the pattern to the podcast. I really appreciate it so much, and also thank you for the gift that you gave to me. And the winner of this hank of yarn and that sock pattern is Grace of Grace Edwards 1 on Instagram. Congratulations to you. And again, just let me know your mailing address and I'll get this off in the mail to you ASAP. And the last prize I have is some more yarn by Cloud Born. These are 2 50-gram hanks of yarn. They are both on the same base, which is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide. This, let's see, are they both exactly the same? Yeah, it's the Highland Superwash Sock base. And the pink color is called Petal. And then the variegated color is called You Better Belize. So you'll be getting both of these hanks of yarn, and you will also be winning a pattern, but it is a pattern of your choice. Emily Clawson of Salt City Knits has donated a pattern of your choice to you, and I am super excited to be able to gift this prize along with a pattern of your choice from Emily's shop, which I will link in the description box below, to Beth of Knit Read Play on Instagram. Congratulations to you as well, and thank you so much, Emily, for donating a pattern to a prize winner. I appreciate that so much. So those are all of the prizes I have to give away today. Thank you again to everybody who's been participating in the Make 9 2024 mail so far. As I always like to remind you, it's never too late to join in. You can join in at any time. Whips are allowed. You do not need to finish anything. It is just a participatory make-along. Any craft is allowed. So if you're not familiar with the make-along already, please see the description box below. I'll have lots of details about the make-along in the description box below, and let me know if you ever need any assistance making a grid or anything. As I've said before, I'm more than happy to help you if you need any assistance making a grid. I know that can be a little bit tricky for some people, but it is not difficult for me to whip up a grid for you really quickly, and I'm happy to do that. So let me know if you ever need any help with that. Okay, I have a few finished objects to share with you all. The first one I'm wearing, and it is a pattern also by Emily Clawson of Salt City Knits. I test knitted this pattern for her and shared with you the first finished object making this pattern a couple of podcasts ago, a couple of episodes ago. And this is the Dixie Creek Cowl, which is a new pattern by Emily, and I wanted to make it again because I just enjoyed making it the first time so much. So the first time that I made it, I used the recommended yarn weight, which is worsted weight yarn, and I did it in a solid color, which is also the recommendation for the pattern. But this time I made a couple of adjustments. My first cowl turned out pretty big. I mean, it still fits me beautifully. I've worn it already and love wearing it so much. But it took a lot of yarn. It took, I think it was kind of close to 150 grams if I remember. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find my notes on that really quickly. I could try, but I think it was like 140. I can't quite remember. Oh, here it is, 142 grams. So it took quite a bit of yarn, and I wanted to try making it in a DK weight yarn and using some scraps. So that's what I did with this one. So this is all DK weight yarn, and I changed color whenever I got to a garter stitch section. So as you can see, there are 4 main garter stitch sections throughout the body, and then it ends with another garter stitch, a couple of garter stitch rows, and the picot edging. And whenever I got to one of those sections, I switched to a little mini that I had that I dyed. I dyed all of these minis. Some of them are very similar in color, but they're actually all different. None of them are exactly matching, but they're very cohesive. They were all dyed together, but each little mini turned out slightly different from the next. The main color that I used, well, I should say the minis are all DK weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And again, I dyed those myself. And then the main color that I used was by Yarn Bee in the Must Be Merino base in the olive colorway. That is 50% merino, 25% acrylic, and 25% nylon. I started this on March 26th, and it only took me until the 29th of March to finish it. So again, this was a super quick knit. It was the first time I made it as well. It was very quick to whip up. I used US 5 3.75 millimeter needles, so that was an adjustment too, since of course I was using a smaller weight of yarn. But it turned out so well. It's not too small. It's just a really nice size. I'm so happy with it. It is just beautiful. I love it so much. It was so fun to make, even more fun to make than the first time because, you know, it's exciting to change colors and use these variegated colors to see how they work out. Last time I recorded, I was in the middle of this first lacy section, so I was already, you know, I didn't have that much further to go. The picot edging, I just love so much in this design. I think it is so unique and beautiful, and I just think it's wonderful. I love this pattern so much. It's really a joy to make. Like I've mentioned before, the lace pattern in this pattern is not difficult at all. It's very repeatable. That's not the right word. Repetitive. It's very repetitive and it's easily memorizable. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, I really enjoyed making this cowl for the second time, and I can definitely see me making it again in the future. It would make a perfect gift, I think. Just really, it's easily wearable because, you know, you just throw it on and it doesn't take too much styling to make it lay nicely, and I loved it. I loved making it, and yeah, I highly recommend the pattern. I have another finished object that I shared on my last episode as well. This is one of the items from my Make 9 board. It is the Rainbow Ripple Baby Blanket, which is a free pattern by Celeste Young. And I still have the progress keeper on there from where I recorded last time, so that's where I was last time I recorded. This is crocheted from the center out. And oh, I just love how this one turned out so much. I've made this pattern several times before. It is one of my very favorite patterns to make. It is so much fun and addictive and meditative. It's just wonderful. I love it so much. So this I made using a Lion brand Mandala Ombré yarn in the Serene colorway. I used a G 4mm hook. I started this on March 25th and finished it on April 1st. And I think it turned out so nicely. So pretty. I just love the colors in this yarn so much, and I think it will make such a wonderful baby gift. I don't know who it will be going to. I just love making baby blankets so much. It's my favorite thing. And I just keep a stash of them and then gift them as the time arises. So I just think this will make a really fun gift. I think it'll be fun to have such a bright baby blanket to gift. So there's my second finished object. Oh, this yarn, by the way, is worsted weight, and it's 100% acrylic. So it'll be super easy to take care of it. I also finished two more of these modified Musselburgh hats that I've been working on lately. I've shared them on several episodes recently, and I'm still working my way through my stash, making a few more of these, but I have finished two more. So I modify the Musselburgh pattern by Ysolda Teague. Last time I recorded, I was working on this one. I had just finished the ribbing and was starting on the plain stockinette for the body of the hat, but I cast on the total, the total number of stitches that you actually get to when you make the Musselburgh hat. So the original pattern, you start at one crown, you increase, you knit a long tube, and then you decrease at the other end. And it's a hat that you fold in on itself and it becomes a double layered hat. Well, I'm just making half of the pattern. So I cast on the number of stitches that you would have around the crown. And then I am doing 4.5 inches of 2x2 ribbing before I switch to plain stockinette. I knit for a total of 10 inches, and then I do the decreases as specified in the pattern. I use worsted weight yarn, even though that is not included in the Musselburgh pattern, but I'm able to get the same gauge that Ysolda Teague provides in her pattern, the loosest gauge that she provides in her pattern. So the Musselburgh pattern ranges from fingering to DK weight yarn, but the gauge varies, and you can modify your stitch count according to your gauge. I use US 6 4mm needles, and I'm able to get the loosest gauge that she provides in the pattern. So I cast on the number of stitches that she specifies for the adult medium size using the loosest gauge. The yarns that I used in this one, the black color, is a yarn that was gifted to me, and it is called Jack Frost Comfort 12 in black. And then this color is a Yarn Bee Yarn ID yarn in the soft succulent colorway. I talked about this one last time. The yarn is basically acrylic, but it's called DuPont. And then the soft succulent is acrylic and polyester blend. They're both worsted weight, though. So I think that one turned out nice. And then I also made this one using up some more of that Yarn ID in the soft succulent colorway. The numbers and inches and everything are exactly the same for this one. I just striped in a little blue mini that I had left over from another hat that I made. So this blue color is Red Heart Super Saver in the Windsor blue colorway, and I used helical knitting to stripe in that little blue mini for a couple of inches before I did the crown decreases. But otherwise these are, the exact same measurements. And I have another one of these in the works, so I will show that to you in my works in progress. So I had 4 finished objects, and I have 10 works in progress to share with you all. So I'm going to give you an update on 4 projects that I've already shared with you before, and then I've started 6 new projects. So I really don't know what's gotten into me, but I just have started a lot of new things. A lot of them are crocheted blankets, and yeah, I better get into it because I have a lot to go over, and I hope that you enjoy seeing all of the things that I've started. I have also started using my new knitting book that I shared with you last week or last episode. I should probably put something on the front cover that marks it, but I haven't been brave enough to do that yet because if I mess it up, the whole thing will look weird. Anyway, I have transferred, so I just used my old knitting book for those last few finished objects. They were in here, but all my other works in progress I have transferred to this book, as well as the new projects that I've started. And a couple of people gave me the advice to put an index at the beginning of this knitting book so that I can keep track of what project is on what page, and I'll be able to find it more easily, which is a wonderful idea. So that's what I've done. I've started an index, and you can see all of my works in progress. These are all works in progress. I think there are 15. Yes, there's 15 works in progress. So I have 5 works in progress that I'm not going to give you an update on because I haven't really touched them. But yeah, there's 10 that I have worked on. So, all right, I'll go into the ones that you have seen before. The first one is another project from my Make 9 board. This one is being held in a project bag that I sewed myself. And it is the Triangle Garter Wrap, which is a free pattern by Purl, Soho. This is a slow growing project because I have modified the pattern to use lace weight yarn instead of fingering weight yarn. And I'm also going to be modifying it to, instead of making it a triangle shape, I am going to make it a triangle shape, but then I'm going to continue knitting it, decreasing my stitches, and so it will eventually become a square that I'm planning on folding it in half and wearing it double, similar to the half and half triangle wrap, also by Purl Soho, but I just like the construction of this one better. I'm not a huge fan of doing the short rows, which are in the instructions for the triangle, the half and half triangle wrap. Anyway, this one is constructed in I think a simpler way where, it's cloudy today, sunny, but there's lots of clouds, and so the light's going to change in here. I see it just went darker all of a sudden. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. Oh, this one is just made similar to a dishcloth. So I'm just increasing every row. I make an increase stitch on both the wrong and right sides, which really you can't tell the wrong from the right because it's all just done in garter stitch. And I thought, you know, usually when you change colors in garter stitch, you get that purl bump row. But since I'm using lace weight yarn, I don't think it's very noticeable when I changed color. Maybe you can kind of tell I changed it mid-row when I changed from this white to the gray color. So maybe you can kind of tell it's right here that it changed. And here the line is a little bit cleaner on this side. But it's not that noticeable, I don't think so. I was going to, you know, be more careful to only change my colors on one side, but I thought I'd just try it and I didn't think it was noticeable enough to worry about it. So I'm just gonna change color whenever I run out. But the yarn that I'm using, right now I'm using all Knit Picks Aloft, which is lace weight. It is 72% Super Kid Mohair, 28% silk. The first color I used was called white, and right now this light gray color is called Plover. I'm using US 5 3.75 millimeter needles, I'm pretty sure. Yes, that's correct. There's a progress keeper on there showing where I was last time I showed this project to you, which was 2 episodes ago, and I still haven't made a ton of progress there, have I? Not even 2 inches, but you know, the stitch count is getting a lot longer, so it takes a lot more knitting to make any significant progress there. And yeah, it's lace weight, so it's a long-term project. I have 2 skeins of the Plover colorway. I'm probably about halfway through this one. And once I finish up the second ball of the Plover colorway, then that will be my halfway point, and then I'll start decreasing my stitches. So I have some bare silk mohair that I'll also be using, and then the final color that I'll be using is the Aloft in the Oat colorway. So that is a super mindless project. It's so, you know, it's just knitting. However, I can't work on that project without looking at it still because of the lace weight. Even though it's just garter stitch, I still have to look at my stitches because I'm not comfortable knitting with lace weight without looking at it. So, but it's very, very easy to work on it. My next work in progress is being held in this adorable bag that I was gifted by a viewer of this channel named Nicole. And it was made by Stitchin' You Bags. I have 2 pairs of socks that I've made a little bit of progress on, but they're taking so long to make significant progress on these. I should mention that I started my lace weight triangle garter wrap on December 23rd of 2023. So yeah, it's going to take all year at least. These socks are being knit using some Dandelion and Dogwood yarn that I was gifted after doing a test knit for Amy Loudon, one of the dyers of Dandelion and Dogwood. And I've made some progress, but not a ton. These are, let's see, these I started on February 13th, so usually it doesn't take me quite so long to make a pair of socks, but I just have way too many whips to make too much progress on them. Anyway, I cast on 60 stitches. I'm using US 0.2 millimeter needles. I did 20 rounds of ribbing, plain stockinette for the rest of it. I dropped a stitch right here. So that's why I have a light bulb stitch marker right here. I picked it up, I laddered, you know, I tried to pick up as many of the dropped stitches as I could, but then it got way too tight. And so I'll just go back and sew that up when I'm all done. But this progress keeper is marking where I was the last time I shared these with you all. But again, that was 2 episodes ago. But I have done the heel flap, slip stitch heel flap, and all of the gusset decrease stitches. So I'm just doing plain stockinette in the round for the foot of the sock now, which of course that's super easy. This yarn is called Candy Cane Peppermint Bark. It's on the fairy sock base, which is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina. So those are fun. I love how they're micro striping. They did do a little bit of pooling here during the gusset decrease stitches, which is to be expected because the stitch count is greater in that section, but we're back into the fun little micro stripes now, so I like that a lot. And my other pair of socks I've made, I think, about the same amount of progress on. These are being held in a cute bag that was made by Joy in the Stitches. And these are my Penelope socks. So I'm making these using some discontinued yarn by Lion Brand called Penelope in the Siren colorway. This is, I think, a 75-25 base. Yes, 75% wool, 25% polyamide. And the yarn comes in this strip of knitted fabric that you then unravel. So it's kind of like a sock blank, but in a different form. And I think I'm about at the same point as the other socks I just shared with you. Again, cast on 60 stitches, same needle size, US 0 2mm needles, 20 rounds of 2x1 ribbing, plain stockinette. I finished the heel flap and gusset. I was kind of in the middle of the heel flap last time I shared these with you, but I've gotten through all the gusset decreases and I'm in the same spot on these, just knitting in the round plain stockinette for the foot. I think the stripes are really fun. They're not perfectly matching, but I've just accepted that now. They're pretty close, but they're just not exact because of the nature of the way that this yarn is dyed in that funny strip. So. And the yarn's all crinkly because you're just unraveling it as you knit up this yarn. It's kind of fun. They're super bright and wild, aren't they? So those are another very easy project. In fact, a lot of my projects are super easy right now, which is great. Okay, the other project that I have shared with you before is being held in another project bag that I made. And this is another project from my Make 9 board. It is the Italian Winter Shawl, which is a free pattern by Francesca of an Italian Knitter. And it's coming along pretty well. Let's see what, oh, okay. I was trying to remember, why do I have two progress keepers on here? The blue one is marking where I was last time I recorded an episode. And that's one that I made myself. And then this beautiful orange colored one was gifted to me. Oh, I'm forgetting Tracy of Grizzly Knits. I'm sorry, Tracy. It was just a split second. I was like, wait, what is her name? Anyway, Tracy of Grizzly Knits gifted me that beautiful stitch marker. So this one is coming along wonderfully. I guess it goes this way. I love how this one is working up. I'm using the leftovers from my Ariana cardigan, which I shared on my last episode, to knit up this shawl. I have adjusted the yarn weight for this shawl. The original calls for Aran weight yarn, and I'm using fingering weight held double. So for my Ariana cardigan, I used all fingering weight yarn. And so I'm just holding my scraps that I had left over from that. I weighed them, and I've started with the ones that I had the least of, and I'm just holding them double and working my way through the yarn, you know, working my way through from the least amount of yarn that I have left to the most. And I just love how it's working up. I think it's so cool. I have adjusted, I think I've adjusted then the needle size probably too. I can't quite remember, but I am using US 6 4mm needles. I'm pretty sure that's a little bit smaller than what she calls for, but I could be wrong. And I'm also not including the eyelet detail that she has in the pattern. So I'm just doing plain garter stitch. It does include this nice I-cord edging on both edges. So that's really great. I love it when that is included in a pattern. I think it gives such a nice finish. And I've just started using this golden color along with, so the two colors I'm using right now, they're both, well, I should mention all of the yarn that I am using is fingering weight, 100% non-superwash wool. The first two that I used were by Yarns Brunswick, the black and camel that I held together here. But the rest of the yarn is all Knit Picks palette. And the two colors that I'm using right now are Merlot Heather and Brass Heather. So I just love how those look together. I think that's super fun, and I've just started working those together here for a few rows. But this project is super fun, and again, another mindless project. It's just super, super simple. You only have to do a special stitch on the right side to increase your stitches. It's a free pattern again, so I highly recommend checking out. She has 4 different patterns on Ravelry for free, and they're all nice and simple and easy, mindless projects, so I recommend you checking them out. Okay, my next work in progress is another one of those modified Musselburgh hats being held in this bag that I sewed myself. And this is pretty unexciting, so I'll share very quickly because it's just being made in black yarn. This yarn was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Tammy. It is Karen Simply Soft in the black colorway. I again cast on the adult medium stitch count for the Musselburgh. I'm doing the 2x2 ribbing right now. I might be getting close to being about done with the ribbing. US 6 4mm needles. And I'm not going to say much more about that because that's just a super simple, kind of boring. But I think this one's just going to be a plain black hat because I have this skein of yarn to knit through. So that will be enough to make the hat. And I think I'm making all of these hats to donate to, I don't know where, maybe a homeless shelter I've donated to before in Omaha, or maybe to a hospital for cancer patients. I haven't decided yet, but I have a stack of these hats that I am knitting up. I think this is number 11. Let's see. Yes, this is number 11 that I have made, so that's great. Okay. Now on to all of my new works in progress. Well, I guess that hat is a new work in progress, but it's a project you've seen before. Okay, where do I start? So I have 5. I should have 5 more. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, right there, okay. I have 4 crocheted blankets that I've started. So I'll go over those first. Okay, the first one is a pattern that I got from this book, which is called A Year of Afghans, 1997. It is a publication by Leisure Arts. And I got this at a thrift store for $1. And I love this book so much. I've already made 2 patterns from this book. So this is my 3rd pattern. And it is called Dreamy Shells. And here is a picture of it. But I have decided, it's beautiful, but I have decided to make this pattern using scrappy yarn. So it's going to look a lot different than that picture. It's not quite as cohesive. This picture is nice and, you know, calm looking and all one color. And I've decided to try using up some scraps to make this. I'm not 100% sold on it yet, but I think I like it. I don't know. We'll see what you guys think. I decided to try to use up some more of my DK weight scraps. And these are mostly wool scraps. Some cotton is mixed in here too, but I just have a few of these scraps in this little basket. Definitely not enough to make a whole blanket yet, but I love, well, maybe I should say I do not like having scraps sitting around doing nothing with them. I like to work them up into blankets, and I really like it when I can get to the point where I always am working up all of my scraps so that they're always going into a blanket. I love scrappy blankets a lot, and so anyway, I wanted to start another blanket using up some DK weight yarn. So that's what I've started. I am using a 3.75mm hook. And the way that this blanket is constructed is you make strips and then you eventually join those strips together. So I have made one strip. The way that the strip is constructed is you start knitting just a few stitches to make a very narrow, long strip. It's just this middle section, this middle, maybe you can see that the stitches are, you know, crocheted in this direction. So you make one long, skinny little strip. I started down here, and the original pattern calls for you to use worsted weight yarn, but since I'm using DK weight yarn, I made my strips a little bit longer. So I added about 15 extra rows to that original strip. I guess it was a total of 16 extra rows that I added to make mine a little bit longer. Since my yarn is thinner, if I had followed the pattern, it wouldn't have been quite as long, and I wanted it to be, I want this to be a throw size blanket for our family to use. Once you finish that long strip, then you start working around the strip, and you're mostly doing these shell stitches. And whenever I changed color, I just used the Russian join method. And so then you just work all the way around, and I just changed colors whenever my little scrap ran out. So it's kind of curling in on itself, but of course when it's all pieced together, it'll be great, and I'll block it and it'll lay flat. I'm sure it won't be a problem, but I'm really, well, I shouldn't say I'm really, because I'm not really sure about this still. I think I like it. It's a little bit weird looking. But you know, a scrappy blanket's supposed to be odd, you know, it's not supposed to be cohesive, of course, it's scrappy. So, I mean, I really like this end where it's symmetrical. That makes me happy, but that's not going to be the way. If it's a scrappy blanket, it's not going to be symmetrical. There's going to be weirdo sections like this where everything is off. So I think I'm going to keep going with it and see how it goes, but it is a little odd at this point. Anyway, it's measuring a little over 60 inches in length right now, which that's a pretty good length for a throw, I think. So this will be the length. Hopefully I made that make sense, but this is the length of the blanket, and then these strips will be pieced together, you know, going, so these strips will run vertically when the blanket is finished. Okay. My next crochet blanket is being held in this scrappy bag that I made myself. I love this bag. It's got this sweet little pin that my daughter gave to me on it. It's such a fun bag. And I'm making another Rainbow Ripple baby blanket, again by Celeste Young, and this time I'm again using DK weight yarn, and I'm using scraps again. So I had a few, it's kind of random that I have some of these DK weight scraps in my stash, and they're all in these more typical baby colors. You've got these very pretty pastel-y looking colors. I started this blanket on Easter weekend, which I thought was fitting. The colors are just very Eastery looking. So it's coming up so beautifully. It's really very precious looking. I don't make baby blankets oftentimes in typical baby pastel colors, but it is very pretty. I don't usually gravitate towards pastels as much, but I have to admit that this is turning out just very pretty. You have to admit it's just, you know, very, very pretty. Anyway, so I just had this, I again weighed my yarn out and started with the yarn that I had the least of. And since this is work from the center out, obviously you're using more yarn as you work your way out. So I just used the yarn that I had the least of first, and I'm working my way out. It's so pretty. I love it. Again, this pattern is just so much fun to make. I can't recommend it enough. It's just, I don't know, I just love it so much. I love making this pattern. The hook that I'm using for this one is a G 4mm hook. I think, is that right? Or maybe I went down. Let me double check. I'm using a 3.5 millimeter hook for this one. Sorry about that. Yeah, I started this one on, March 30th. So it is just working out so nicely. I love it. I've just started, I've just done a couple of rounds of a plain white. It's kind of got a shine to it, and it's more of a, it's on a smooth yarn. I have a little note card on there, sorry. Anyway, it's, got this bumpy texture to it. It's Bur Hat baby something yarn. And then I also have quite a large ball of this blue color. These yarns were gifted to me by a viewer of this channel, Isabella, maybe. I've gotten to the point now where I have been gifted so much yarn by such lovely viewers that sometimes I get it mixed up, and I feel so badly for that because I really wish I wouldn't mix things up. But I'm so sorry if I get things mixed up. I'm just going off of my memory, which isn't wonderful. Anyway, I also have this blue color that I'll probably finish off with. When I finish this white color, if I think I need more, I do have some green colored yarn that I could add in. I think this is a bit thinner than DK weight, so I might have to double it up. I think this was given to me by Tina, my friend Tina. But I'm thinking I might not need it because I've got quite a bit of this, and I think it'll be big enough with just these colors added in at the end. So we'll see how that comes along, but that's another project that's very mindless. I don't have to, it's just, I have the pattern memorized at this point, of course. It's a simple pattern anyway, but it's a nice one to have on the go. Okay, another scrappy blanket I started. This one is using worsted weight yarn, so I needed another. Now that on my last episode, I shared with you my granny's daughter Afghan that I finished. That was using up worsted weight 100% acrylic scraps. Since I finished that, I needed another blanket to put my worsted weight scraps into. So that's what I've started, is another blanket for those worsted weight acrylic scraps. And I have made, I love this one. I just love scrappy blankets so much. Okay, so this one is just a simple ripple blanket. Oh, isn't it fun? I love it. I love the colors that I've got in it so far too. It's really, I don't know, odd kind of color combination, but I love it. I think it's neat. I did not follow a pattern for this. I've made ripple blankets in the past, and I kind of looked at a old pattern, like super old. It's a photocopy of a yarn label from centuries ago, decades ago for sure. Anyway, and I don't follow that pattern. I looked at it kind of for stitch count, but I do my own thing. So in that pattern, I think you're supposed to be doing single crochet stitches and going into the back loop only, but I'm using double crochet stitches and not going into the back loop, just crocheting normal. I will put notes in the description box below how I did this, but I'll simply talk over it. I chained at least 200 stitches. Usually when I start a blanket that's made in this way, where you're just kind of guessing how wide you want it to be when you're starting your chain, I just make a chain that's extra long. And then on that first row that I'm actually crocheting, that's when I really determine where am I going to stop, what width do I really want it to be. That's a little bit easier to be able to tell rather than just going off of the chain. And then I usually have a little extra chain left over, and I just snip that off and unravel those first few loops, and that works really easily. That way I don't have to count my stitches, and I don't have to worry about running, that I've made it too short or too long for that matter. I can just kind of go with what I think once I've started crocheting it, and I can get a better idea of what width I want it to be. So I have made a total of, I think 7. Yeah, 7 peaks. So, like this is 1, here's 2, and I've made 7 of those for my width. I start each of my rows with 2 double crochets and then one of the valley type stitches, if that makes sense. So here's a valley and here's the mountain top or peak. So I start with the little valley stitch on the edge. So anyway, I again will put the notes for what I did and how what stitches I'm using, the counts that I'm using and everything in the description box below, in case you're interested in how I did this. I am using an H 5mm hook for this project, and of course I'm just changing colors whenever I run out. Again, I don't have a ton of worsted weight scraps to put into this blanket at this point, just these right now, so it's not a lot. And again, I just want to get to the point where I don't have scraps just laying around, that they're going into a project. That's my goal. So that's what this one is. That's the purpose of this one, is to use up those worsted weight acrylic scraps. All right, one more blanket. I know I'm ridiculous. I don't know what my problem is. I don't usually have this many projects on the go, but I just couldn't help myself lately. I don't know. I just wanted to try this pattern. I had shared this booklet with you that I was gifted by a viewer of this channel named Carlin a few episodes ago, and I just love this pattern on the front cover so much, and I wanted to give it a try. So this booklet is called Sweet Baby Blankets, The Best of Mary Maxim. It's a Leisure Arts publication. And this pattern that I am working on is called Baby Flowers Blanket. And I just think it is so pretty, and I really, really wanted to try this little motif and see how it worked up. And I had this yarn. It is called Daramore's Studio Anti-Pilling DK yarn. And I have 4 colors that I'm using right now. I have one more color, which will be, so I'm using, the original pattern only calls for you to do 3 different colors in the motifs, but I didn't have enough of a 3rd color. So I needed to have at least 2 skeins of that 3rd color, and I only have 1 skein of this blush color and the olive color. So I'm kind of switching these out throughout the motifs. And then the other 2 colors I'm using for the motifs are lime and rose. And then the final color, I don't have it with me right here, but it's a light beige color. It's called Powder. And I have, the pattern calls for you to do 6 different combinations of motifs, and I have worked up 1 of each of those color combinations. And they're so sweet. I love them. And they're super easy and super fun to make. I really enjoyed making these motifs. There's no stitch that's very difficult. It's all done using, pretty sure it's all done using single crochet and double crochet stitches and chains. Yeah, US terms. My kids are working outside. You might be able to hear them. I can hear them. They're being a little loud. We had a few trees cut down a couple of days ago, so the kids are cleaning up from those trees getting cut down. Oh, and I should just tell you while I'm on this subject, when the trees got cut down, it was kind of sad, but it has a happy ending. After the trees were on the ground, our kids found a baby squirrel on the ground, and I went over to look at it, and a few feet away from the baby squirrel, it's sleeping on the ground, still breathing, still fine, just cuddled up in a little tiny ball. A few feet away, there's 4 more. So there's 5 baby squirrels. They all looked perfectly fine. They were all cuddled together. The 4 were cuddled together, and then this one by itself. And I was like, oh no, but they looked fine. They were unharmed, which is a miracle, because these huge trees, 5, we had 5 trees cut down. 5 huge trees were cut down. They were ash trees, and they were getting killed by the ash borer bug, and so that's why they had to all be cut down. Anyway, they were fine. These squirrels were fine. I'll keep showing these while I talk. Anyway, I looked it up online. What should I do? They said if they're not hurt, leave them alone. Make sure that they're warm. Well, it wasn't very cold that day. It was like maybe 60s. And they were all cuddled up together, so I thought they'd be warm, except for that one that was all by itself. So I looked online and it said if you need to move them, use gloves. So I got gloves on and I just moved that one that was all by itself to be with the others. And they said just leave them alone. The mother will probably come back and move them to a new nest. So we were out there working until dark. So I figured the mom wouldn't be able to come or would not come while we were still working. But as soon as it got to be dusk, we stopped working, we came inside, and the mother came. It was so exciting. We were watching, and I had just said to the kids, I haven't seen any adult squirrels anywhere nearby though. I'm worried that they're not going to be taken care of. As soon as I said that, the mom comes and she takes one and takes it away to a other nearby tree, a couple trees away. So she started moving them. But then we have outside cats. And as soon as the mom took one baby, one of our cats she just like beelined it to the baby squirrels. So we're freaking out, of course. And anyway, we ended up grabbing our cats and putting them inside in an inside porch that we have for a couple of hours to give the mama squirrel time to move her babies. So anyway, she got them all moved, and then we let the cats back out, and everything is well in the world. So anyway, I don't know how I got on that story, but I'm glad I told you because of the kids working. Anyway, it's kind of a fun story. So anyway, that blanket, is so fun to work up. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going crazy over crochet scrappy blankets lately. This one's not really scrappy because I had bought all of this yarn actually to make a different pattern that I decided not to make. So this yarn works perfectly for it. The only problem was that I had to change the color combo as I already talked about. But that'll be fine. I think it'll work out great. One more work in progress. It is being held in another beautiful bag that was made by Trisha of Joy in the Stitches. This one she gifted to me. Oh, that was my hook from that project. I don't think I mentioned, but I'm using a 3.5 millimeter hook for that last project I just shared with you. Anyway, Trisha gifted me this bag, and I love it so much. And she also gifted me this little pouch that goes with it, which I'm using as well. And I am making myself a Ranuculus, which is a pattern by Midori Hirose. And I am really excited about it. I wanted to make a summer top, and so that's what this will be. I am using Knit Picks Comfy Fingering Weight yarn in the Marlin colorway. And I've used this yarn before for summer garments, and I love it. It is 75% Pima cotton, 25% acrylic, and it's just got a beautifully soft feel. And I have made some good progress on this. So this is knit at a very loose gauge. I am using US 10 6 millimeter needles, which I believe are the recommended needles. This pattern can be knit in lots of different yarn weights, but again, this is a fingering weight yarn, so it comes up with a very loose gauge. So it will be a layering piece. I'll wear it over dresses. I'll definitely always wear a camisole underneath it because, as you can see, it's quite see-through, but it will be nice to have as a summer top. So I made a few modifications to this one. Let me get my notes out for this one. She gives in the pattern recommendations for making a tighter fitting neckline or a looser fitting neckline. I made the tighter fitting neckline. I cast on using the German twisted cast on, which is not recommended in the pattern. I believe she calls for a tubular cast on, maybe. I can't even remember. But anyway, I used a German twisted cast on, and I cast on the number of stitches for the smaller neckline. And I started this on April 3rd. And let's see, I didn't realize until afterwards that I was supposed to use a smaller needle size for the ribbing. A US 8 is recommended, but I started off with the US 10. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think I started off with a much smaller needle because I didn't do a gauge swatch. I was just kind of shooting into the dark. And anyway, it turned out too tight at first, and so then I ripped it out and started over with the recommended needle just to see. I really had very low expectations that this was going to turn out to fit me well, but it is fitting me well, and I'm happy with it. Anyway, I made a mistake not using probably I should have used an 8, but the neckline fits me really nicely, so I'm afraid if I would have used the 8, maybe it would have been too tight. Anyway, the pattern has short row shaping in the back, which I did. You can see there, this extra stockinette section is where the short row shaping is made, and that raises up the neckline in the back of the neck just to get a better fit. The pattern also has short row shaping in the front, but I skipped that part. That would give your neckline more of a boat-shaped neckline, and I did not want that. So I skipped the short row shaping in the front. It has a beautiful lacy yoke pattern, which I have completed already. After that lacy section in the yoke, you're supposed to do some raglan increasing, but I also skipped that section and I went immediately into splitting for sleeves. And now I am just knitting the body in plain stockinette. So this will be a cropped top, and I'll just add some ribbing onto the short sleeves and keep it as a short sleeved summer top. I've just knit through one 50-gram skein of yarn. I have 3 more, but I'm pretty sure I won't need all of that because I've already made quite a bit of progress here with just one 50-gram skein, but that means it's super lightweight. This is like nothing, it feels like. And so that'll, again, be great for a summer top. I think I can try it on. I'll try to try it on. I have my waist yarn on the sleeves tied in bows just to keep them extra secure, but I think I can just undo those and try it on so you guys can get an idea of how it's fitting. There, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. I love how it's fitting throughout the neckline. I think it's really great. And yeah, I just think it's so beautiful. I'm happy with it. I think the color is lovely, and yeah, I think it'll be great. I don't like I skip those raglan increases because I don't like my sleeve underarm area to be too loose. So I think this will work great. And plus this is cotton, so when I block it, it will stretch out a little bit more. So I just didn't want it to be too oversized. So I think I'm happy with how this is coming along. I don't know if you can see the back very well here. Let's see. That's my youngest being a fire engine outside, if you can hear him. Anyway, I think you can kind of get an idea of what it's looking like. Yeah, so at first I was afraid that that ribbing was way too loose, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm happy with it. So I think that's it. That's all I have to share with you all today. So I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing my way too many whips and everything else I've been working on. I hope that you all are enjoying what you're working on as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.